Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the November 22nd, 2017 episode of the YourLIVINGBrand.live show. My name is Ben Baker, and welcome to the show. Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, I have a company called Your Brand Marketing. What do? We work with our clients to consult, to teach, and to speak on brand message, market vision, and value. Well, what does that mean? We help find out who you are, what do you do, who do you do it for, and why should they care? We help craft your message strategically. We help get your audience to understand why they should do business with you. Now, this show is the YourLIVINGBrand.live show. Every week, we interview another guest. Now, these guests come from us from all over North America and actually getting to be around the world. And what do is we find out what makes them special, what makes them unique, what makes them different. Why does their audience find them appealing? Why does their audience engage with them? Because every business is unique. Every business has their own story to tell. Every business has something that makes them different and special and makes people want to do business with them. It's a matter of finding out who your exact audience is, why those people need what you have, what problem are you able to solve for them, and help them solve it. Now, our guest today is Fiona Douglas-Crampton. Fiona is the CEO of the Dalai Lama Center here in Vancouver. She is a phenomenal person doing phenomenal work, and I'm going to let her tell your story. So sit back, listen to the interview, and I'll be back in a minute. Fiona, thank you very much for joining me today. It is a pleasure to have you on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell me about the Dalai Lama Center. Tell me about what do you guys do? Who are the people that you support? Tell me the story about the organization.
Yeah, it's actually quite an interesting story. It started back in 2004 when His Holiness came to Vancouver. He's come to Vancouver quite a lot in the last few years. Mm-hmm. And he came in 2004, and his main message for that visit was, how can we educate the hearts of children? And the reason that was his message was because in North America especially, we focus so much on academic achievement that sometimes we don't focus enough on social and emotional development for kids. Right. And what he was really asking us to do was find a way to balance educating the mind with educating the heart. And so the Dalai Lama Center was started in 2005, and His Holiness agreed to co-found the organization. Mm-hmm. But we were very intentional when we started the organization that his was a hands-off sort of arrangement, but we made sure that everything that we do is evidence-informed. Right. And we have absolutely no religious or political ties. And you can imagine that having that ability to just explore that question of educating the hearts of children and having His Holiness as a co-founder, I mean, that's one of the greatest brands you could ask for.
Absolutely.
So that's, yeah. So that's how we started. And we spent a few years sort of figuring out, what would be the best way to do this and how should we do this? And we ended up partnering with UBC, and there's a specific department at UBC called the HELP. It's the Human Early Learning Partnership. Okay. And so we partner with them. They're kind of our research arm. And so that helped us in making sure everything we did was evidence-informed. And we also realized that it was really important, instead of us providing our programming to children, we actually provide it to adults who have children in their lives. Okay. And the reason for that is, there's a good reason for that. And it's because we know from research that if you're going to teach social and emotional development, it's better to do it through a strong, healthy relationship. Mm-hmm. So it matters who's nurturing this, who's teaching the children this. And so it's better for their teacher or their parent or their social worker or counselor to be doing it than it is to send your children, say, here to the Dalai Lama Center. And it's more effective that way. So those are some of the main things that we started off with.
Right, because it's a matter of trust. I mean, when it comes from a position of trust, when kids learn from either a teacher or a parent or a cousin or an aunt or an uncle or whoever, if it's someone that they already have a relationship with, if it's someone that they already trust and they're already have, ongoing conversations with, they're going to internalize those conversations a lot better than if they go to a one-day class somewhere and they learn a bunch of things and then there's no follow-up. So this way, I'm sure what you're doing is you're building it into not only that day, but back into their lives.
Exactly. And that's one of the main things that's so important about the work that we do, is that it needs to be infused and integrated into a child's life right from birth, right up through to adulthood.
Right.
And you can't do that by just giving a class exactly once a month or something like that. And the great benefit about having the parent or the adult in the child's life be actively part of nurturing this social and emotional development is that it flows through them, so they benefit as well.
Sure. Yeah,
right?
Because there's that symbiotic relationship of by teaching my child and making my child better, I'm making myself better too.
Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah. Now, when you're not going after is a horrible way of putting it, but when you're introducing this to adults, first of all, how are you doing that? And second of all, what age adults are you talking about? Are you talking about people that have 3-year-old children? Are you talking about people that have 5-year-old kids, 10-year-old kids, teenagers? Or do you have different programs for parents of different age kids?
Yeah. So I guess the first message really is that, when you talk about, do you want your children to have, emotional intelligence or what you call social and emotional development, we've built a framework around this, and it's called heart, mind, well-being. So that's kind of our term, and we have a whole framework, and that's where all of our programs and initiatives flow out of that framework. But really the first message is, most people say, oh yeah, that's great. Of course we want our children to be emotionally mature and secure and all that sort of stuff. But my big message is that this isn't just a nice to have. Our system has become so focused on academics as the be all and end all. The most important first priority should be that they get 90% in their classes, right? And sometimes the rest of this stuff gets lost. And
the human factors.
Yeah. And what we have determined, there was a massive study done in the US, is that if you focus on the social and emotional development of children, it actually increases their academic achievement.
Right.
Significantly, by at least 11%.
Wow.
And it also increases their physical health and their mental health. So it's not a nice to have. That's my big message to people is often, it's not a nice to have. It's actually foundational, and it lifts all boats. So if we focus on this first and foremost and integrate it throughout every stage of a child's life, then it's going to help all the other things. But it's also going to, it's also just going to make a better community for us, better society. This is like the roots of the tree, right? Exactly. So to answer your question, I mean, the best case scenario is that you start at birth and it continues all the way through. So we don't focus on a particular age group, but the age group that's a really key one. There's certain times in a child's life where interventions have a big effect.
Right.
And sort of the 0 to 6 is an age group where you can really make a lot of impact. If that's when you're doing this stuff with kids. If they're 0 to 6, that's an area of impact. So we do focus a little bit more on 0 to 6, but everything that we do, we have an online website with resources, and you can just go onto that website. And
what's the website? Just tell everybody what the website is.
It's called Heart Mind Online. So heartmindonline.org. And it's .org. And it is, there's about 130 resources on there. And you can just go in and you can look up things according to our framework. But you can also just put in anxiety and resources will come up. And you'll be able to see different ones depending on your child's age. whatever developmental age your child is. So if you've got a 12-year-old who's just had to move to a new school and is really having trouble making friends or is very anxious, you can put in anxiety, you can put in gets along with others, you can put in different things, and resources will come up.
Right.
And for every resource on Heart Mind Online, you can go right back to the research paper if you want to. So it's not just curated stuff that we've found. It's very specifically done, and it goes through quite an editorial process before it's on there.
Right.
And so people trust it.
Well, and that's key, is that trusting. I mean, one thing you said was very interesting. You know, we were told at a very young age, when our son was born, and he's teenager now, that we had up to age 5 to imprint him. If we wanted him to have certain traits, if we wanted him to be a certain way, if we wanted him to think certain things and do certain things, the best chance we had to imprint those ideas and those ideologies were for us to emulate them in the first 5 years of his life. And the more that we emulated those things, the more he would see that this is what was going on in life and say, oh, this is what I should be doing because mom and dad are doing this and grandma and grandpa are doing this sort of thing and as well. And, that whole thought process that it takes a village to raise a child, it does. Raising a kid in today's society is getting more and more complex. And the more we can take a look at other, ways of doing things and different ways that we can research how to help these kids, the better off we are, because you're right. It's a crazy, wild, and wonderful world out there, but there's a lot of things that we as parents didn't get a manual when we had the kid. And to have the resources that we can go to something like the Dalai Lama Center and be able to go onto a website and be able to get stuff that has evidence-based learning to it, there's a lot of value there.
Yeah. And so that website is actually split up into 2 streams. One stream is for educators because it has things like lesson plans attached to it. And the other stream is for parents and caregivers. And so there are activities that you can do. Some of them are quite multi-layered. There's a video, there's activities that you can do with your child. There's books to read, all sorts of things that you can have in it. And it's all free. And that's a great resource for people to use. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? And the nice thing is as your child gets older and they come into different, problems or issues or thought processes, the website grows with it. It's not just aimed at 5 and 6 year olds and say, okay, here's a section that can help a 12-year-old. Here's a section that can help a 16-year-old. Here's a section that can help, an 18-year-old as they transfer from high school to university. And, there's that, that thought process that it's lifelong learning.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that's been really helpful is, this is all, the concepts are all, familiar to us, and we, intuitively we all say, well, yes, of course, this makes sense. And we all want to nurture this stuff in our kids. But what we've done is do it in a way that is evidence informed, and that is, we've developed a framework so that it's not just educate the heart. What is the framework? How can we understand what educating the heart really means? And so we've spent a couple of years developing this framework with UBC. And it's basically 5 areas of qualities that we're trying to nurture in children. And the 5 areas are really simple and clear, and they're really easy to understand and grasp for parents, for children, for everyone. But there's a lot of research behind them. So the 5 areas are, firstly, we want our kids to be secure and calm.
Right.
Then alert and engaged. Then we want them to get along with others.
That's always important.
And solve problems peacefully. And of course, most importantly, to be compassionate and kind. So that we have this multicolored heart, and those are the 5 areas of what we're working on. And that framework is used for all of our programs and initiatives.
Right. Now, besides going out and talking on shows like this, and I really appreciate you coming on board, because it helps people really find out about programs like this. How do you communicate your value in the community? How do you get the word out? How do you get people involved? How do you demonstrate, to people that have absolutely no idea that this resource exists, that you're here and how you can help them?
Yeah, well, on the one hand, that, for a small organization with not a large marketing budget, that can be a challenge, for sure. But at the same time, I think a couple of things have really helped us. Firstly, the brand of the Dalai Lama has been very helpful, and partially because of that, we have a really large social media following for our size. So we're a small nonprofit charitable organization, but we have 130,000 Facebook fans and over 20,000 Twitter followers. And so it's a big social media following. So that's really helpful. We also, because the work that we do is so relevant to educators, especially with the new curriculum, which I was going to tell you about, which really, it's something that is brand new for us in this jurisdiction. But because the work that we do so matches and aligns with this new curriculum, educators are really, really interested in our work. And so what's happened over the years is that the word has gotten out in the education community, and the framework has been really useful. And we put on a conference every year to a year and a half. We call it a Heart Mind Conference. And that conference has grown from 200 or 300 people up to, we're expecting probably about 600 at this one. Coming up.
Is that mostly educators that come to that conference?
Well, initially it was really mostly educators, but we're finding now that definitely the demographic is expanding. We're getting a lot more parents. I mean, educators who are parents, there's overlap there, of course, but we're getting a lot more parents and counselors and social workers and mental health professionals. We're getting a lot more people like that out to our conference now because it's so relevant to them as well.
Right.
But it was traditionally, and is still traditionally, a lot of educators sort of at the early childhood educators to elementary and high school.
Sure. And you know what, that's important is for people to understand, here's my core audience. These are the people that I can help, and these are the people I can serve, and these are the people that I'm going to find value, they're going to find value in what I do. And if you take the time to speak directly to them, let them tell your story for you. It's amazing how powerful the story comes from somebody else unless it comes from you. If somebody says, you know what, Fiona's great, it's a lot more powerful than I'm great. If you saying it. So, finding champions, finding people that believe in your cause and believe in the education that you're providing, and let them go out and tell that story to others is a powerful thing. I mean, having the Dalai Lama behind you gives you credibility. It's a great co-brand. And, as you said, it's not 100% funded by the Dalai Lama. You guys do an enormous amount of fundraising on your own. It's the name and the ideology behind the Dalai Lama that you are able to associate with. It's not like the Dalai Lama as the brand and as the organization owns your organization. They are a partner.
No. And as a matter of fact, we don't get any funding from His Holiness's office at all.
Right.
He has specifically endorsed our work in BC and we are inspired by him. But we don't have any financial ties or obligations. So we fundraise completely on our own for our own work. Yeah. And, you're right that it makes so much sense that, other people talk about us. And we find that really focusing on making sure that we're evidence informed and making sure that the quality and integrity of our work is always really, really high, that has really helped us gain credibility and followers in the marketplace, for sure.
And that's a long-term ongoing process. I mean, that's the important thing. It's not what you say today. It's not what you say tomorrow. It's what you're saying and doing long-term. And that's what builds a brand. A brand is not built overnight. It's not built on one program or one event. It's built on what you do day after day, time after time, and the blood, sweat, and tears that you put out there that allow you to build that credibility that other people are going to recognize it and support it. So good on you.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So one series of questions. When you're going out there and we'll finish on this because I think this is a good thing. And I want you before one more time, just give everybody the website one more time. That's important.
So it's heartmindonline.org.
Yeah.
And that's for resources. And then our regular website is DalaiLamaCenter.org. And center is spelled the American way.
Okay, so it's TER.org. So it's the Dalai Lama Center.org. And if you go there, that'll take you to the other website, correct?
Yes, you can get onto the other website. And also that's where you find out about things like our conference, which is coming up in February.
And how to donate to you, I'm hoping.
Absolutely.
Which is important.
There is a donate button.
Which is always important. Always important to have a donate button. You do good work.
Yep.
People should support it. People support the Dalai Lama Center. It's important. They do great work. But Fiona, let me leave you with this. When you go out and you meet people, and you leave the room, and you get in your car and you walk away, what's the one thing you want people to think about the work that you do in the Dalai Lama Center that adds value and gets people remembering you and the value and the vision that you provide?
I think really, my main message and purpose, if you put it right down to something very short and sweet, is that I'm trying to get across this message that educating the heart is actually foundational, and it's necessary and instrumental in our children's development. It's not a nice to have if you have time after you've studied and gotten a 98 on your math homework. This is foundational, and it's not something that any of us can ignore. We need to actually infuse this right from the beginning, make it the highest priority, because it will help everything else. And that what we're building here is the roots of the future of our society and community. So what I really want is for people to think about social and emotional development differently. I want them to start thinking about heart-mind well-being and thinking about how its importance is there and the evidence is there. That's what I'd like them to remember.
I like that. Education is important, and you're going to be the first person to tell me, that education is an important thing. But it's
absolutely
who we are as people, who we are and what we believe as people, and how we interact with each other, and how we support each other, and how we engage with each other, and how we communicate with each other is what makes us interesting and what makes people want to be with us. And as we move through our lives, the more we can understand that it's not a good grade that's alone that's going to get you that great job. It's the personality with the good grade and the human being that you are, and your ability to articulate what makes you unique and valuable that makes people care about you and want to be around you and want to support you. And I'm seeing great work coming out of the Dalai Lama Center on helping people become those type of human beings. And I thank you for your hard work. And I thank everybody involved, in the Dalai Lama Center for your hard work. Because you know what? You're doing important things.
Thank you. And
You're welcome. Now, I'm going to let you go and just hold on for a minute, and we're going to go. I'm going to put you in the green room. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody, and then I'll be right back. Thanks, Fiona. Okay. So that was a great interview as far as I was concerned with Fiona Douglas-Crampton of the Dalai Lama Center. You know what? They do amazing work dealing with young kids and parents and kids of all ages, to be able to sit there and look at people as total human beings. It's not just the A+. It's not just being top of your class. It's the human being that goes along with it. It's being able to communicate values and vision and be able to care about others and be empathetic that really matters in today's world. And it doesn't matter if you're a person or a corporation. The more we can act as human beings and the more that we can listen to each other and understand each other, the better off we're all going to be. So thank you very much, Fiona, for your hard work. You know what, everybody, this is the YourLIVINGBrand.live show. every week we work with another company to understand what they do, why they do it, what their vision is, why they're valuable, who they communicate with, and how they do it. What are you doing as a company to be able to differentiate yourself in the marketplace? What are you doing not to be a commodity? What are you doing to show people that you understand who they are? What are you doing to understand their problems and to be able to work with them to fix their problems and to solve their issues? My name's Ben Baker. My company is Your Brand Marketing. We consult, we teach, and we speak on brand, message, market, vision, and value. Come find us. We'd love to talk to you. Have a great day.